Hey, my name is Jory Edlin. I'm the operations manager at Huntington Learning Center. I have many presentations that I could have brought. I brought this one. They all start at 30 minutes and go up. So doing this in 10 minutes is going to be a challenge. It is completely unrehearsed, so I disavow and disclaim anything I might say. Question: who in here has kids? Okay, who in here has kids in elementary school? Who in here has kids in middle school? Who in here has kids in high school? Okay, good. We're going to talk about all of that stuff in 10 minutes or so. I think the kids, the younger kids, are more like that about school starting, and the older kids are more likely to be that about school starting. Is that about right?
No, mine are all that.
They're all that? Okay. These are some of the things that you might... So the first thing is... that you might find as far as what makes them be like that. So my advice is to focus on the positive. Keep in mind what you know about your child. You do know stuff about your child that can help you when having these discussions and when framing these discussions. If you can paint a picture of the new school year as being positive and better and different based on what you know about your child, that can help. What you can do to make some of these things work is go to orientation. I don't know if all of the schools have orientation. I know that when kids go from elementary to middle school to junior high to high school, there's usually an orientation, meeting the new teachers, finding out how to monitor your kids' assignments, monitor her progress, and get a clue on what the teacher's expectations are for the year. Is self-explanatory. So the dreaded homework, I taught high school for many years and I called it practice work and it didn't work. They knew it was homework, but I tried and I encourage you to try. There's a purpose for it. We're not trying to torture the kids, although they know that we are. We're trying to help them practice what they learn in school so it can settle in. What can you do to help make it less traumatic? You can set up a routine and enforce it. Connect school activities with what happens outside of school. As an example, okay, this timing isn't working. As an example, I used to tell my kids back in the old days when Kroger's would announce, 30% off of an item. If a kid found the item to be not marked 30% off correctly, he could take it to the manager, show him the label, and get it for free. So they don't do that anymore. I had a kid in one of my classes, and the store manager actually called me up in school and said, "Stop doing that," because they were so bad at what they were doing. So that's a connection to math, percentages, and what goes on outside of school. So set goals. I like to talk about SMART goals. Everybody has their own maybe acronym or a way of setting goals. SMART goals are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, timely. What you need to do is include your child in the setting of those goals. Help the child decide what's important and what's not important. If you have a goal for that child and it's not important to that child, it's probably not going to be, you're probably going to be working on an uphill battle in that one. So you want to find out you want to help her find out what's important to her. What does she think she can do as far as setting those goals? Again, establishing a routine. It's tough at first, but the harder you are at the beginning in setting it up, and the more strict you are and the more absolute you are, the quicker it'll get started and the easier it'll be later on, because once kids get into a routine, you probably know this as parents, they'll stick with it regardless. If you can do this, if school hasn't started already, you can phase in the schedule change to the school schedule from summer schedule. sort of like avoiding jet lag. If you change things step by step. If it's a new school, visit the school. If it's not a new school, you can visit the school. Sometimes kids will go from year to year and they'll have totally different classes in a totally different wing. Some schools you will have the same locker from year to year, others you won't. And if your classes are moving from one wing to another and your locker's moving from one wing to another, you can get the schedule and walk the schedule with the kid. Have her friends come with her, have his friends come meet him there and do that and see where their lockers are relative to each other. And kind of, get him used to it. It can make it less scary on the first day of school when there's 100,000 kids running around screaming, yelling, and screaming. I can't say enough about reading. I was a math teacher, but I can't say enough about reading and the importance of reading. If kids can read better, they will do better in every other subject. It's just, I think everybody knows that. All of the stuff, all of the tips here, you should keep in mind when thinking about them. Keep in mind the past, and keep in mind who your kids are, how they function, how they perform, how they study, how they learn when you're doing all of these things. Reviewing last year is a good thing to do when you're setting goals, which was number 5. When you're establishing a homework routine, which is number 6, and when you're creating an activity schedule, which is number 7. The final tip is getting organized. Getting organized physically and getting organized systematically, if you will, is something that will help. Once your kid if you have a structure, and once your kid gets into the routine, you won't be fighting because it's homework time, it's time to do homework, and spending half an hour of your hour worth of homework time fighting to do homework because it's homework time, and they'll know that, and they'll be used to that, and they won't be pushing back against it so much. This is an advertisement slide. A plug. This describes what we do, and we do it for pre-K up to high school kids. We have several different services that we provide.